Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Oh, that felt good. Welcome to the season premiere of Saturday afternoon's main event. Season 7, episode 1. Jeez, we've been on the air for a long time. But look, due to the fact that we've been on the air for a long time, I believe you would now know who I am, right? Please tell me you do. Please tell me you do. You know what? All right, if you're dumb, stupid, blind, plain irrelevant, I suggest you go to school, go into your library, get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the phenomenal one. Of course, I'm the host here on Saturday afternoon's main event, but what is a host without its co-host? What is a tag team partner without his other tag team partner? What is a soldier without his comrade? What is a tribal chief without his Sami Zayn? Of course, that's passe due to the fact that was 2023. We're in 2024. Look, the fact of the matter is, I'm not here alone because I'm joined by my co-host. That man is the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing son of a gun who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So give me a 2 claps and a peep snake.
Woo, woo, woo. I had to get 3 of them out there. Yes.
That's amazing, peeps.
Yes. There we go.
It is amazing to see you. How are you doing today, man?
I am good. Deep voice Dynamo keeping his voice nice and limber considering out there here in the Northeast where it's 23 degrees. Hopefully everything is fine where you are, where everybody that's watching our show is right now. And we hope to give you everything that you're looking for in that special brand that Saturday afternoon's main event will bring you every single Saturday. So
that is
there you go.
Right. As Pete said, guys, we're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So look, here's the thing. If you guys are just new to the show, if you guys are chiming in for the first time, we welcome you. We really appreciate you guys coming here on this episode of Same. Look, if you guys haven't been in tune with us, if you guys haven't followed us on Instagram, you guys can go ahead and do that now. It's on Instagram at Saturday afternoons _main event or on Twitter at Saturday main. So look, with that being said, we've been off for 2 weeks. So it's been a little minute and a lot has happened.
Yes.
So let's just go ahead and just dive into Wrestling Crash Course, right, peeps?
Let's do it.
All right, say no more. So, guys, to kick it off, we have to hear the sound. That fits it. Okay, so look, let's go ahead and fire it up. First and foremost, Nicholas Alopecius Nemeth has joined TNA.
Yes.
For those of you who are not considerably understanding the names and the lingo and the former actual real names of superstars, this man is a former world champion, former intercontinental champion, former Mr. Money in the Bank. Wasn't a WrestleMania main eventer, but listen, he did have a stellar match with Goldberg at SummerSlam. I digress. First one of the
Well, there you go. First one.
Have to happen. Anywho, guys, this is Dolph Ziggler.
Yes.
So now, look, peeps, Nick Nemeth, TNA Wrestling, the new epiphany in the industry. How are we seeing this go down due to the fact that we know he is now maybe in a feud with Steve Maclin, who is, of course, a former TNA champion.
Yes.
So what are we seeing?
What we're seeing is a rebranding and a rebirth of Nick Nemeth, who I believe is happy to be there because he's gotten the chance now to kind of purge himself of some of the things that have happened while he was in WWE, the former Dolph Ziggler. I think a lot of people thought he was going to go to AEW, but then again, on a kind of a roundabout way, he appeared in New Japan on their card in California, and then did a roundabout way to show up at TNA Hard to Kill. And he's trying to show everybody this is his home. This is where he's going to make his home. And I believe he can have some really good matches. I mean, let's really be honest. Nick Nemeth always had very good 5-star matches, even if he didn't win. He can make anybody look good. If he's not going to win a match, we've seen him put over lots of people. We've seen him one of the best sellers in all of wrestling, but also very crisp when it comes to his move set, his in-ring work, his awareness, and the fact that he can still cut promos, still believable, still got a good physique, and is still going to be out there to appeal to the wrestling audience that he has something to offer. And TNA is a very good place. And if you notice, there are a lot of wrestlers that are going, maybe bypassing WWE and AEW on certain levels, because the TNA brand has been getting better and better and better. And the reason why I say that is, if anybody looked at TNA Wrestling Impact on Thursday and actually got a chance to watch one of the best matches I've seen between Josh Alexander and Will Ospreay.
Oh, yes.
Chef's kiss.
Definitely
to the extent that Scott D'Amore got emotional after the match was over, to show you the kinds of stuff that TNA Wrestling is going to be putting on. You may not be getting Will Ospreay all the time, but to add a name like Nick Nemeth along with Josh Alexander and having those the other talent that is there for the tag team division and over for the X division, the Knockouts division is still getting better. That is a huge place where there's a lot of talent, a lot of newer talent meshing with a lot of the homegrown talent, if you will, is only going to get better.
Definitely right on that, peeps. So we hope for the best for Nick Nemeth there at TNA.
Yes.
But we bid farewell to another superstar. That person is Trinity, of course, known to all wrestling fans as Naomi. She had her last match on an Impact taping. Of course, we know she dropped the belt to Jordynne Grace at TNA Hard to Kill. So, peeps, knowing that she has left and she has accomplished so much within Impact / TNA, what are we imagining? Maybe, well, I mean, there's only one thing to imagine, but when I say this question, I mean what? Number 2 in the Rumble? Number 20? Maybe number 21? Or probably the infamous number 30? What are we seeing here?
I don't think it'll be number 30, but I do think if they do put her in the Rumble, if she shows up there and debuts there, I could probably see 15, 14, 15, like right in the middle of the card where no one is expecting her to be, just to show up. She'll be in a position where she's low enough to let the other established talent do something in the ring, yet far enough so she doesn't have to stay in the ring 25, 30, 40 minutes. And she can kind of showcase what she's going to be doing while there and have it where, wow, it's a mystery. I don't know who it is. And kind of break up the pace of what's going on in that Rumble, depending on who's there at the time. So I think that makes this a fair assertion to make, that she'll probably, if she's going to sign with WWE, which I think is pretty much a foregone conclusion, that she's going to be at the Rumble in some capacity.
Definitely so. Yes. So, I mean, we only have a week left. There is so much that we can only imagine, but I know for a fact Naomi will be back in WWE. The writing is on the wall.
Yes.
From there, we move to the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And a certain person has left. We will get to one big name later, but this is another prominent name in New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you're familiar with the Bullet Club, if you're familiar with Ring of Honor, if you're familiar with TNA, you would know this name most definitely well. Tama Tonga. After his match for the openweight title, which he did lose, not the strong one, okay, or was it the never? Peeps, there's so many titles in New Japan.
Yes,
for God's sakes.
The New Japan Pro Strong Openweight Championship. Yeah.
I won't even say I digress for this one, because what can we possibly say to this? But I mean, now Tama Tonga's left New Japan. Stellar career there. Are we seeing AEW? Are we probably seeing a resurgence back to TNA? Probably to the liking of seeing ABC, Chris Bay. What are we seeing here? Is there something that we have to look forward to Probably with him coming back to the States. Does he take time off for a little bit? What does he do?
I think he takes a little bit of time to kind of, as they say, get his ducks in a row and kind of figure out what the best plan is for him. I think most people, when they hear somebody like Hikuleu or Tama Tonga or somebody in that line that is Samoan of Samoan descent, the first thing that everybody's thinking about is he's heading to WWE. He's going to be a new section of the bloodline. That's where they're going to add him.
Imagine.
A lot of people would champion that. A lot of people would love to see that. As a matter of fact, I saw, or if you looked at SmackDown, there was a Zilla Fatu sign in the crowd. So the wrestling fans are actually, they are much more astute than a lot of other outlets give them credit for. So if they are going to have a resurgence of the bloodline and kind of add to the storyline, that would be a very good place to put him if they want to try and do something like that and add to the story and maybe lengthen it and give it a little more dynastic appeal.
How many resurgences are we going to get, peeps? I mean, for God's sakes.
Yes.
You just heard that Roman has actually passed Bruno's second reign. And now that makes him what? Like I think he's like fourth or third behind Hogan?
Yes, he's approaching Hogan, and I believe he has another year to catch Bob Backlund, the name that they refuse to talk about. But I digress. There you go.
There we go. Second one of the day. Oh, man. From there, we move away from New Japan and we go to the world of AEW. And this is about another two members of the old Bullet Club. The Young Bucks. Guys, I know I'm probably getting heat for this. I know people are probably saying, well, Phenomenal One, you're actually talking about the Young Bucks? For what it's worth, look, guys, I like that they're embracing the hate. I like that they're actually adding attitude.
Yeah, you have to say it like this. Embrace the hate.
In the words of the wise man, Chris Jericho, drink it in, man. Let me stop. But, guys, to say the least, with this upcoming feud against Sting and Darby Allin, and seeing what they said on their sit-down interview with Renee Young at AEW Dynamite this past week, it seems as if they are really, really looking to hit the marker. They're really looking to kind of up the score and up the ante in whatever they choose to go ahead and do within the industry and within AEW. But it's just like, peeps, do you think this is kind of like hit or miss? Do you think that this is okay? It's dug in the ground now, and it's gonna stay. What are we trying to accomplish within the Young Bucks' new persona?
What I think is happening is twofold. One, they are embracing what the fans have given them as support, which is, we're tired of you and your preening and your complaining and the same match types and the same kinds of, we're at the top of the card, we're the elite, all of that other stuff. Obviously, the Bucks have their fans. The Bucks are very talented. We know that. Yes. They are athletes. They have ridiculous moveset, probably more so than a lot of other teams that are out there. But what is happening is, this has kind of been a paradigm shift that I've been noticing over the last, I'd say about 6 to 8 months, that the fans that usually look at the Young Bucks aren't looking at the Bucks the same way. Or at least they're not voicing it the same way that we're used to hearing. And where they would normally be tweeners, or that they would kind of skirt being a face and then go back to being heels, but then within the elite, they were faces. It seems like everything they do now, they're being booed for. So they are embracing the heel nature of that. They're embracing the fact that they are EVPs in the company. They're embracing the fact that they make decisions along the lines of what happens in the boardroom, so to speak, match types and that kind of thing. But they also came out dressed the part with the mustache the porn stashes, so to speak, and the cab Kangol hats and the long trench coats. They're embracing this prickish attitude that they have. And really the crazier part about this is, and this is on the non-kayfabe aspect, the more that they delve into this, the more they seem to prove CM Punk right. And I don't know if anybody's really picked up on that, but the more that they're embracing this storyline, mostly because they probably have to really get something going, the more that the things that CM Punk has either said or not said kind of starts to prove to a great degree the strife and some of the things that have happened in AEW that a lot of people bring up and talk about. So why not? If Vince McMahon can do what he did to Bret Hart and then embrace being the bad guy and turn it into a character and then become probably the greatest heel character in the history of all professional wrestling, then do it. If the Bucks can go out there and then embrace this and really do something dynamic with it, do it. They don't have to be liked because they know they aren't. So do it.
We are saying now that the Young Bucks are in their Mr. McMahon arc. Punk.
Yeah. And the crazy part about it is, I don't think that there's one of those, there's the blurred line between the Bucks being heels and the Bucks being regular, normal, everyday people, because a lot of people kind of equate the way that they act in the ring, that kind of back and forth arrogance, we're better than you kind of attitude, with how they are away from the business. So if that's the case, literally the thought process is, if you think I'm the devil, I might as well be the devil. I might as well just take the show my horns, pull out the pitchfork, and do what I normally do. And that's what I think that they're doing right now.
So you're telling me that they got rid of MJF just to go ahead and take away his persona and take it as theirs? That works. Hey, listen, that works, guys. I'm messing with you guys. Jeez.
Yes.
Calm down.
He doesn't mean in the literal sense. Okay.
Yes, come on, guys. Be for real.
Yes.
But he has some comments here before we go ahead and get to the next topic. Hot Rod says, who are the Young Bucks? Oh, the guys with the spy outfits. Jeez. 007, James Bond. Yeah, something around that perimeter. Phenom says, do you have a problem with Sting having his last match in a tag team instead of a one-on-one? I would have wanted it to be a one-on-one. And honestly, what I was thinking, that if it was his last match, there had to be a passing of the torch, so to say.
You're thinking the same thing I was thinking.
It could have been Darby versus Sting.
Yes.
That's what I was honestly thinking. But after hearing that Sting was the one who chose a tag team match and he chose the Bucks, I can't be mad at his wishes. I honestly just thought that if you were gonna, go on your back, of course, and do the honors of just, going down and like taking the L, you would do it to someone who needs the push. I think that the Bucks are just already prominent in the business, because I think a lot of us wrestling fans have been following the Bucks since Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. We've been following them since Ring of Honor and the short tenure in New Japan, and of course AEW. So we follow through and we know who the Bucks are. And
that hot cup of coffee when they were in TNA is Generation Me.
Exactly. And don't forget when they had that little one-off as jobbers on WWE, it's just regularly Matt and Nick Jackson.
Yes.
Oh gosh, good times.
Yes.
But
yes.
As you can see, we know the Bucks. Darby would need the push. Of course, we know Darby with his antics and things like that. It reminds you of a young Stinger.
Yes.
Face paint is already just the one-up.
Yes.
If you needed somebody to have the push, it really should have just been Darby and have it call a one-on-one. But you know what?
It's built in marketing. He markets himself just by being there.
Yup, that's true. But you know what? It is what it is. We have to accept that as wrestling fans. In March, we're getting the Bucks versus Darby and Sting at Revolution. So, just have to embrace it. Embrace it, guys.
I think a lot of people, knowing that Sting was going to have his last match, I think a lot of people are probably grateful that his last match is not against Ric Flair. I think that was just the main thing that most people are like, okay, they didn't do that. Okay.
It would have been cool because John Moxley probably would have been in Ric's corner just to show him how to blade the right way. It's a new season. Let me enjoy my laughs, okay?
Yes.
We move to the world of WWE. Charlotte Flair's comeback may be quicker than fans think. She's been prominently going on Instagram and Twitter, showing how she's doing with rehab. the fact that she's able to maneuver around the way that she's doing right now, currently within this spectrum, and knowing that she's dealing with an injury and knowing that it's going to be a long time till we see her, probably the curtain was probably saying, okay, you know what, September, October. But now, Apes, we may be looking at an earlier return. What do you think?
What kind of mutant is she to be able to heal? Oh, Andro, creatine,
something. It can't be pre-workout, Peeps, for God's sakes. You know what? Yeah. I digress. She popped the perk. All right.
Good grief! But I tell you right now, it's amazing that we are in a time that we're in now, where people can have what would have been a debilitating injury just a few years ago, can come back like that and actually be as close to the way they were before the injury, and in some instances even better. So to know that the majority of Charlotte Flair's her work rate is off the ropes. You can see she's a gymnast. She reminds me a lot of John Morrison with some of the stuff that she's able to do with the moonsaults and diving over the top rope and doing all kinds of death-defying things, but also a very good, grounded, technical wrestler. So to have her tear an ACL, knowing that it was a really bad tear and that she's ahead of schedule from what the reports are saying, that is absolutely crazy. Now, obviously, she's going to miss WrestleMania. But to say that she may be back by, say, Survivor Series, maybe shortly before that, if they put some sort of, because we know ACL tears are usually between a 9 month to a year rehab. As we already know, we have other wrestlers in the WWE that have torn their ACLs, like Cora Jade, who's out with a torn ACL, and she's probably done for the rest of the year. So if we get Charlotte Flair back ahead of schedule, that really, really helps.
Oh, definitely so. Definitely so. I was really looking forward to hopefully seeing a Charlotte versus Jade this year. Knowing that we might not get that, towards Mania. It's okay. It's okay. She signed. Flair signed to a max real Brock Lesnar type contract. So, at this point, we know that we're probably going to get it down the line in the future. We just want Charlotte to get better. So, hope all goes well within her rehab and her recovery, and we hope to see her soon. From there, we move to the final piece of Wrestling Crash Course today, and it's regarding a legend. No, not Randy Orton. No, not AJ Styles. Definitely not your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Not Paul Heyman, but John Cena. Cena has went on numerous interviews, and he has said that the curtain call is coming. It's imminent. His final act is almost near. And within everything that he's done within the industry in his past 20 plus years of performing, he says that he's giving WWE everything he's had, and he just wants that final piece into the coffin to just say, you know what? I ended on good terms. I ended with me going out on my back. I ended with at least promoting somebody to brighter lights. I want to be able to at least know that I did well in my final run, and however WWE needs me within this final run, I will go ahead and do it because I know this is my last run. Peeps, it's 2024.
Yes.
It's crazy enough because for you, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, you've seen it all from Nick Bockwinkel to the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers. That's way back. Jeez.
That's even before me, but I've seen, I watched a lot of that.
Are you lying to me? Way before you? Come on, bro.
Yeah. Well, look, when Fred Flintstone was wrestling the dinosaurs and giving chops to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, that's a little bit more. But there you go.
Oh, man. We joke around with people so much on this. I kid you not. But no, within the past couple of decades, we've seen the growth of wrestlers. We've seen them come and go. Some of them we've lost them too soon. With Cena, it feels like time went by so quick. So now we're looking at it from 2005. He won his first world title. To now, 2024, 19 years later, we are about to see the final chapter.
Yes.
It's crazy. But peeps, if you had to say now as an early prediction, who is Cena putting over? Just out of curiosity.
You know, I don't know if it's somebody that we're probably thinking of right now. The one thing that I will say is, if it's going to be his final match, and I'm trying to figure out where he would do it. Would he do it? I don't think it'll be at WrestleMania, because he's a big enough name that I think him being there to put someone else over would probably overshadow the aspect of what he's doing, because it would probably be his final match. I was always of the mindset, from what I saw, that how he put over Solo Sikoa was it for him, as far as him passing the torch. Although I find it odd, given that match, that Solo Sikoa since then has kind of been like the punching bag of the bloodline now. I've noticed his push is really kind of stagnated a lot since
he's been taking losses since the Cena match. So
he's been counting the lights a lot more so than ever, and it's kind of odd. But I guess you can't be a beast bulldozer 100% of the time. If Cena is going to be having that final walk into the good night and then walk off to Hollywood forever, I don't know if it is an actual match per se. I would not be surprised if it's one of those things where he shows up, he does not to say a skit per se, but maybe something along the lines of, you can see him narrating, talking over some sort of footage, maybe being part of someone else's match, not to say interfering per se, and then having at the end his farewell, his wave to the crowd, taking off his armbands and leaving them in the ring, something like that. He could still get in the ring and have a match. The question is, who would it be against? And I'm trying to figure out who else on the roster would benefit from beating John Cena this year. That would be the question.
You can't possibly think so. You can't think of much.
Yeah, exactly.
I was along the lines of that. If Cena had to go out on his back, you think of all his WrestleMania matches, and you proceed to remember that he hasn't faced one person in a singles match, and you begin to veer out and you're like, well, they've had a historic rivalry. It definitely goes down in the history books as the Ruthless Aggression's Rock versus Austin. I think you know where I'm going, right?
Okay.
What if the last person that Cena faces is Randy Orton?
That could work.
That can honestly work. Because, honestly, you're looking at it from the perspective of, well, last year, Cena put over two individuals. Although it isn't working to the benefit that we thought it would work right now, but he did put over Theory at WrestleMania, and he did go ahead and put over Solo Sikoa.
Yeah.
Then again, as you said, if you're going to sit there and look at it, there's not much individuals that can garner that much attention to themselves from beating John Cena, because, of course, it will overshadow everything due to the fact that it's Cena's last match.
So basically, you're the way you're thinking is this would be along the lines of the pantheon of era enders. Yes. We had Undertaker, Triple H. We had Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. We had Rock, Austin. So now this would be the end of this era with Cena and Orton. Yes. And I guess that's kind of how you kind of crystallizing what they would do if they did something similar to that. Because it would be one of those, instead of saying, oh, once in a lifetime, last in a lifetime. This is not going to happen again until it happens again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The dying breeds of a generation.
Yes.
Two men who came in together, have literally dominated the industry, made so much of their careers, have so many accomplishments under their belt. Now let them have this match to at least signal the end of the era that we all lived to see them prosper. You know, something along the lines of that. For me, I can't see Cena going ahead and just beating, you know, like anybody, or just having a match and losing to what? Grayson Waller?
Yeah.
Aussie. Let me stop. Guys, I'm sorry. I digress. Third one of the
There you go. There you go.
As I said, I really do think that should be what it is. If Cena's gonna give us that final act, let it be against Orton. I really wouldn't mind it. I would love it. It would be near and dear. And that match can have probably the most emotions that I may ever have within the span of a good 10 years. So you know what? I'll take it like that.
Yeah.
But with that being said, this marks the end for Wrestling Crash Course, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, you know, if you want to keep up with any of the newest social media news, updates in the world of professional wrestling, you got to do one thing and one thing only. Follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoon _main event and on Twitter at Saturday Main. With that being said, right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into our first topic for today. So before I do that, peeps, I want to go ahead and present to you a picture. All right?
Okay.
You remember this picture exactly, right?
Yes.
Extreme Rules 2016.
Yes.
Right after WrestleMania 32. Seth Rollins comes back from an ACL, MCL, and meniscus tear and regains the title the next month at Money in the Bank, loses it to Dean Ambrose. Then in comes the Universal title, so on and so forth. But we remember how devastating it was prior to this picture being taken.
Yes.
When we heard that Seth Rollins tore his ACL, MCL at a house show.
Yes.
And further had him relinquish the title and not show up at the year after his WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I remember how bad that injury looked because he was trying to do like a sunset flip into a power bomb, and he landed on his leg, and you could see it shift. Oh, it looked bad.
Yeah, so we know where we were when this happened.
Yes,
you know, everything it was, and since that return in 2016, I think we have enjoyed what Seth has been able to do. We've called him Wrestler of the Year numerous times. The moveset is incomparable. He is a workhorse. Of course, now within 2023, him having stellar matches. Of course, the 3 matches with Cody, the matches with Edge, gaining the new World Heavyweight title. And now, fast forward, peeps, we have this picture. And from the moment he fell after trying to do that moonsault, or that line sault, you should say, it was kind of like you noticed something was wrong.
Yes.
You instantly felt that, okay, something's up here. Fast forward a couple of days, we didn't hear that Seth actually did injure himself. We didn't know to what calamity. We didn't know how it looked. We didn't know what the circumstances were, but they said that he was injured. Friday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning into that, we hear that he would address the crowd this coming Monday on Raw about his injury and what the future of the World Heavyweight title is. Later in the day, we then hear that Seth has once more torn his MCL. Once again, we do not know to what calamity. It can either be a grade 1, God willing, it can either be a grade 2, or worst case scenario, it can either be a grade 3, which would take about 8 to 12 weeks to heal. And when you look at that calendar, if that is the case, Seth might miss WrestleMania. If it's a grade 1, which is, I believe, 2 to 4, or grade 2, which is 4 to 8, there is still a shot at him going ahead and facing CM Punk at WrestleMania. Probably a mini storyline within that, maybe, if not requiring surgery. It all depends. There are so many factors leading into this. We do not know the answers. We don't know to what calamity. The only person that knows that is the WWE and Seth Rollins. And we'll know what this means come Monday on Raw. But peeps, knowing this, what are the scenarios looking like? Because, of course, as I said, if it's grade 1 or grade 2, that means we still get the match. There's a possibility that they will still have a build to it, and we would get it. But God forbid, if it's a grade 3, what is the future of the World Heavyweight title?
Well, the one thing that as a wrestling fan you can appreciate is that as we look at athletics, football, hockey, basketball, etc., and we know one genuine thing about athletics. Those that are in the athletic world, in the athletic sphere, there's a different animal.
Yes.
Where they can go in and tolerate enormous amounts of pain and suffering, putting the enormous amount of torque on an elbow if you're a pitcher, the amount of times you can twist a knee if you play football and plant your foot the wrong way, the strain you put on your rotator cuff if you play tennis, or even the ideal of being behind the wheel of a car and driving it around a track, potentially knowing you could wrap yourself around a retaining wall at any given time. To know that a professional wrestler, who most people don't give the same amount of credit for, but they are athletes first, have to go through when they are wrestling 2-3 times a week, wrestling every week, 52 weeks out of the year, and knowing that they have to do the traveling, they have to go through all of the other things that are there, and knowing that what they do dictates what a company does going forward with storylines, merchandising, television appearances, that kind of stuff. To know that a wrestler can have that kind of an injury and then come back potentially and tolerate the amount of pain that is there before the inevitable surgery has to happen. The reason why I bring that up, a couple of instances. Shawn Michaels, if you remember back in 1997, literally destroyed his back in a match with The Undertaker. And he wrestled with that bad back for a number of months until WrestleMania 14, where he defended the championship against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and had to wrestle that match because that was the big blow off of that feud. That was the moneymaker to get Austin on that main event plateau. It had to happen. And he made sure that even though his back was destroyed, he got through the match as best as he could. And he was out of the ring for 4 years afterwards until he came back and still gave it a go. Wrestlers like that don't necessarily exist as much as we see them now. Seth Rollins is a completely different animal, so to speak, as well, because he's been wrestling for how many years with a bad back? And we don't know if the knee injuries are a product of the back, because sometimes you can walk around with certain injuries, change your gait as you walk or you maneuver around, make certain other parts of the body weak, causing certain injuries, or it could just be something fluky that happened in that match. The fact that we're even talking about that, he may potentially, depending on how bad the tear is, he could still potentially wrestle, shows you the kind of determination that certain wrestlers have where they do not want to lose any time off, especially since we're literally a week away from the Royal Rumble. We have the Elimination Chamber in Australia, and then we've got WrestleMania in April. Nobody wants to miss the payday, the attention, and the chance to potentially main event night 1 or night 2 of the granddaddy of them all. If that happens, it can change a lot of things positively or negatively based on how they book this. I think the majority, the consensus of people that have been looking at how these are being booked have always looked at Seth Rollins potentially being in the main event of one of the 2 days against CM Punk, which is what a lot of people have kind of written in. If he can't go, what does that do to the World Championship? Do they have a tournament? Do they hold it up? If it's not as bad Do they let him hold on to the belt until it gets back? But then there's that argument that there wasn't a world champion that they could count on because Roman Reigns, let's really be honest, he only defended that championship 11 times last year, if that much. And they don't want.
Seth was like what, 50 plus?
Yes, because he not only defended it on premium live events, he defended the championship on Raw. He was defending it at house shows. So that workhorse mentality is kind of like that old school territory days where, oh, okay, everything is cool. Now, if this is a real significant injury that takes him out for months and months and months, then he's going to also have to think about, okay, do I take care of this injury or do I take care of this and the back injury and come back fully healed? Because if you think about it, Kenny Omega went through the same thing where he had one injury, he got it checked out, but he didn't take the time that he needed to nurse himself out, and he's out again. Yeah. And we don't know how long he's going to be out. So to prevent something like that from happening, he's got to look at his health long term. But if we're looking at storyline wise or what they can do, this is the reason why Triple H is at head of creative, and they have a deep bench to pull from if they decide to maneuver pieces here and there and make newer matches, better matches, fresher matches going forward. I think that's what they'll probably end up doing.
So, peeps, if he does take that time out, does drop the world title, what are the next 3 months looking like?
I think Elimination Chamber would determine who the champion is. Because I think that if they're going to do that, they probably put 6 people in the Elimination Chamber and figure out of these guys who's going to get a title shot, if that is indeed what they plan on doing. The Royal Rumble is going to determine, I think, who's going to go after Roman Reigns. That's what I think. And if we
probably know the answer to that.
Yes.
Now it's just like, okay.
Yes. And I think Seth right now is in that position where if the Punk match is off limits for right now, then you can maybe pencil Punk in somewhere to get a title shot somewhere. Or maybe, like I said, Elimination Chamber, put a championship there. And if they put the belt on Punk and Rollins is out, when Rollins gets back, he's already got an instant ladder toward that feud, an off-ramp, so to speak, with him. Maybe you can still have Punk, if he wins, give McIntyre that match that he's looking for, because as we saw them build up Punk and McIntyre getting in each other's face on Monday, that's something also that can be broached again. Mm-hmm. So let's see where they go with that. But that would be also very intriguing as well. And if you think about it, could you imagine McIntyre potentially main eventing one of those nights at WrestleMania against CM Punk instead of Rollins, if Rollins is indeed hurt? Something to think about.
What's the dynamic? Do we look at Damian Priest as the potential cash-in?
And there is the wild card that I was going to allude to, because nobody has thought about that fact that, well, maybe somebody wins a belt, something happens, and they're still dangling that sword of Pericles over the head of everybody that is wondering, well, when is Damian going to cash this briefcase in? That's something that can also be he can do one of two things. He can announce it that at such and such date, I'm going to go and get that title match and be in main event WrestleMania, blah, 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 blah. Or he could cash it in at the end of one of those matches and potentially win the belt. I don't think it's going to be a case where he cashes in and he loses. I think whenever he cashes in, he's winning the belt. I think they're that high on Priest for whenever they plan on making that. And with Rollins not there and maybe Punk being there, maybe this is kind of the dynamic that they need to pull the trigger on that one.
Definitely so. Well, we hope that come Monday, we get a resolution to what we are possibly saying now. We get a full-on thought process to what we can see coming into the Royal Rumble, going into Perth in Australia, and going into Philadelphia at WrestleMania. And
Yes.
hopefully we can decide and figure out what is in store for Seth Rollins and what is in store for the future of the World Heavyweight title.
From Seth Rollins' mouth to the wrestling god's ears.
Yes.
And then they'll go from there, what happens going forward.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So with that being said, guys, this marks the end of the first half of Saturday afternoon's main event. When we come back from our 30-second break, we will get into our questions. And then, of course, our final topic today, which is AEW and WWE look to make money rain towards the Rainmaker. Stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, because the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, it's Phenomenal, and alongside Peeps Nate, we're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So, of course, let's go ahead and give you laughs, because, of course, the questions are probably one of the better parts of our show, day in and day out. So
give you the double J laugh. Ha ha! There you go.
There we go. There we go. So from there, you guys know that if you guys want to send in a question, all you got to do is DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons _main event. I guarantee, in the words of JBL, it will be on the episode of the next show. Trust me on that. So that being said, let's get into it. The first question of the day goes to Master Sean 007. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. Why do these wrestlers or fans, etc., get so bent out of shape over constructive criticism given to them by podcasters? Some of them just ignore the message because they don't like the messenger. They'll verbally assault the podcasters but won't address what the podcasters are saying. Thoughts?"
That's a good one.
Didn't we have this kind of like the dilemma in our group chat a couple of days ago, Pete?
Yes, we did. And it was a matter of whose feelings are going to get hurt when something like this happens, and how would they rectify it. And this goes to a lot of the nonsense that's been going on between Tony Khan and him going on Twitter and arguing back and forth over certain things that make no sense. We're hearing other wrestlers go on other podcasts and listening to, like Eric Bischoff will say something, or Vince Russo, bro, or a lot of other people that are involved in wrestling, like Jim Cornette, etc., that have podcasts, and they're giving you their insight and their opinions. We've been doing this podcast for a couple of years now, and we may not always agree on the exact same things, but for the most part, we know that it's not with any malice. We're not trying to denigrate anyone, and it's constructive criticism. Everybody has an opinion. It's a matter of that opinion, how does it jibe with the wrestlers that we are talking about? And I think right now, there are so many wrestlers that are so sensitive about the business because since they're in the business, they feel that they know more than the average Joe, so to speak. The problem is the average Joe may not be privy to what those wrestlers are talking about or what they know by virtue of their connections to the people that are running the companies that they're in. Or they might not know who's booking something, etc. But you and myself and the followers of our show and the wrestling fans around the world that have a modicum of intelligence and kind of know how the business flows when you're looking at it in a certain way, they know what works for themselves. They know what works for the wrestlers given their characters and who they're portraying. But they also know what works for the eyeball test. And if the eyeball test says this stinks, do something different, then the fans should be able to express their opinion and tell people what they feel and why it is the way it is. And you can take that constructive criticism and do with it what you will. It doesn't mean that it's fact, but it shows you that they care enough about what you're doing for you to do something to improve it. But there are a handful of wrestlers that are out there that take that akin to trying to stab someone in the chest with a rusty screwdriver. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
Of course not.
And if you're that upset about the criticism that comes from the wrestling business, in a business where there are lots of men and women with strong wills, strong constitutions, high moral backgrounds, and in some instances, low moral backgrounds, and you can't take that criticism, you probably don't need to be in the business.
Completely right on that. Completely right on that. So, Master Sean 007, we hope that we answered your question to the best of our ability.
Yes.
From there, we move to Long Island Isaiah. He says, the free agents this year are stacked, to say the least. Who do you believe will prosper the most from added talent? So I guess he's probably asking from New Japan, WWE, AEW, and TNA. Me, honestly, with all the free agents, with everything that's been gathered since September up until January, and hearing about people leaving, people going other place, I'm honestly saying TNA. And I know what you're probably saying, well, TNA isn't that big yet. It's still on Access TV. It's still going on YouTube. It's still doing... Look, within the past couple of months, Scott D'Amore has been able to, one, sign a deal with Endeavor to forward TNA's library over there and show it on their version of TNA Plus, which is kind of similar in, you know, the visuals and the way that you market the app. It seems like it's the same as the WWE Network. So that's one thing.
Well, it's even to the extent where they're calling pay-per-views premium live events.
Yup, that's another thing.
So that should give you a hint.
Yes, the rebranding of TNA from Impact, now bringing you that stellar amount of wrestling and that nostalgia effect from what we, the much more younger generation, and if you're peeps, the ones that drank from the fountain of youth, the effect of knowing, okay, if we're getting TNA back, this means we're getting Lone Wolf AJ Styles, or Get Ready to Fly, or the Samoa Joe that we grew up on, or
yes, not the Legacy of Violence Samoa Joe, the other Samoa Joe, the regular Samoa Joe that was destroying everybody before he decided to walk around with a giant, I don't know what kind of it looked like a hacksaw and painted his face with, the
Abyss, that is, you know, this generation's PCO, or so to say, right?
Yes.
The Main Event Mafia, things above that stature in line. We've grown to know that TNA, and knowing that they're rebranding it, and knowing that with the addition now of Nick Nemeth, it seems like they're trying to be on the right route of getting back to their groove of what it used to be. Not so much of, oh, you know what, we're just going to try to advance with the times. They're sticking to what they know. And what they know seems like it's going to work. Why? Because it's not like wrestlers that are in TNA just stick to lucrative deals. We have seen wrestlers in New Japan go over to TNA, go ahead and wrestle in TNA. We've seen Kenny Omega, who was a prominent AEW champion, go over to Impact, carry that title as well, and be known as the belt collector during pandemic days.
Yes.
We've seen most recently, once more, Will Ospreay wrestle against Josh Alexander on this past week's taping.
Oh, man. Ooh, what a match. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And don't forget, he faced Speedball last year. And listen, that was A1 as well, you know?
Yes.
So the things above that nature, I see that TNA is trying to prosper, and they're trying to grab the brass ring at the top of the ladder. But they're doing it with a calmness to them, so to say. They're doing it with precise contentment, where they're not trying to just shoot for the stars dramatically, quickly, and as quick as possible. They're trying to do it with a sense of, I would say, maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, impact. So, look, for me, I'm saying TNA. That's just me, peeps. What are you thinking?
Oh yeah, TNA is definitely the recipient of all of the toys and all of the junk food right now. It's not necessary. The free agents that are out there, they are not empty calories. That's definitely something that we can go ahead and say. This isn't just a bunch of guys bouncing off of companies because they just got fired or they didn't have any kind of use for them. There are a lot of quality free agents that are coming out this year that are not being showcased the way that they should in the companies that are currently holding them. And all you need to do is put a lot of those free agents in a bag, shake the bag up, and you start pulling names out. Is it Tama Tonga? You had Nick Nemeth. You've got a lot of other people from New Japan, All Japan,
Elias,
MLW. Remember, exactly. You also had Hammerstone, who is now in TNA. Big hulking guy, initially part of the dynasty in MLW. And I tell you right now, there are so many different names that are up there, and then there are names that have yet to be talked about at any real capacity. We don't know the full extent of the contract stuff with MJF. Although, my opinion, I think he's been signed and he was probably re-signed with AEW months ago. Drew McIntyre, who's got his contract, I believe, expires sometime this year. Maybe he's gotten some kind of an extension. Maybe he's staying in WWE. Who knows? But I think, as you said it stated, and is the same way that I was going, of all of the rosters that are out there that have a plethora of great talent, the promotion that is looking the best to capitalize the most off of free agents that are coming either from another promotion overseas going in would be TNA. Now the WWE we don't talk about as far as they would generate the most attention, etc., because that's a given. They're by far the biggest promotion on planet Earth. So by the de facto beneficiaries of whoever comes to their company. We've been talking about Julia. We've talked about that. We're going to talk about other people later on in the show that may potentially go in certain areas and go to certain companies. But if you're looking at a place to prosper the right way and get the right audience, maybe not necessarily the right promotion of it as far as getting the eyeballs that they need. But TNA is slowly coming back from the pandemic era, and they're doing it the right way. The rebranding, they've given new championships, belts because of the rebranding, and they're reintroducing how great the TNA brand has always been. They've had some slow states, they've had some good states, they've had chances to be number 2, they've fallen back down, but they've been consistent and steady. And Scott D'Amore has done a great job of keeping everybody focused with a laser straight focus that everybody needs to have and be on the same page going forward. And I think that definitely works in their favor with all of the talent that they're doing. And plus they're working with other promotions here and there. They're working with AAA, the AAA organization, so they're going to have an influx of Lucha Libre to potentially come in and help out as well. They already have their own X division, which is by far one of the best parts of the company. And of course, the Knockouts division is always strong. So anything that you can add.
And even now, with the addition of Dana Brooke, who we might be seeing is probably
who's now going by the name of Ash by Elegance, which is kind of an odd name, but I guess she's going for that like a perfume advertisement kind of. I wouldn't want to say she's a knockoff of Timeless Toni Storm, but I think she takes a little bit of inspiration from it and is going to probably try to tweak it in her way that fits the TNA audience. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going on in TNA, and it's seemingly, for me, all positive.
Exactly right. Definitely so. So Long Island Isaiah, there's your question. I hope we answered it to the best of our abilities. From there, we move to the next person and the last person today for the questions. It is Tombstone City Adam. He says, I hate to see Seth have this injury since the timing is nearly close to Mania. Feels like 2015 all over again. Hopefully he doesn't vacate the title.
Yes.
That's what we're all hoping for. You know,
Yes.
that's just like for me, if he does it on Raw and he vacates it, and we have to hear, oh yeah, come Elimination Chamber, we're gonna have like 6 men in the chamber for the World Heavyweight title. You know what it's gonna be giving, peeps? It's gonna be giving 2005 or 2006? Around that time, you remember Batista having to go ahead and lose the title due to injury? Then you had the 6-pack challenge, and then Kurt Angle won it that same night. Yeah,
yes.
For me, I want him to continue to have it because he's been amazing this year, and he hasn't given up. I mean, the amount of storylines behind the injuries, and then having those influx of matches against Nakamura, and having that match against Jinder, and then of course the matches with Finn Balor. For God's sakes, peeps, the man was amazing in each and every single one. And
we can't even forget the match he had with The Miz. Remember, they pulled a match of the year candidate on Raw with The Miz. Now, this is not to say that The Miz is terrible, because he's actually pretty sound in the ring.
Exactly.
But the fact that match happened shows you how great Seth is.
Exactly. So we just hope. I'm really hoping, and I'm pulling for Seth to at least be good come Monday. I want to hear what it's going to be said. I know that's probably going to be the most viewed segment throughout the whole show, because people really want to know. So, let's see what happens. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that marks the end of the questions for today's episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. We hope you guys enjoyed them. Once more, you want to send in a question? You want to be a part of the show? All you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram, Saturday Afternoons_main event. It'll be featured on the next episode of the show.
Give him a peeps point.
There we go, peeps point. That works.
There you go.
Vanna White impression. I love it, peeps. So, from there, let's get into the last topic for today. And of course, you heard what I said when I said it. AEW and WWE look to make money rain towards the Rainmaker. And if you're a wrestling fan, if you're, so to say, what the IWC calls a casual, please tell me you at least know who this individual is.
Yes.
Multiple time winner of the G1 Climax. Multiple time IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Multi-time IWGP Intercontinental Champion. Peeps. The man, the myth, the legend, the Rainmaker.
Yes.
Kazuchika Okada is set to leave New Japan Pro Wrestling January 31st, 2020. Oof. Who would have thought?
Yes.
Okada. Before we even get into what it looks like, peeps, Okada. The same Okada New Japan literally let go of their president for and hired Hiroshi Tanahashi to become president, just to at least save Okada from leaving. But he's still leaving. We know how big this is for the States, because why? This is free game for any professional wrestling promotion here in the United States.
Yes.
For New Japan, it stings. I know it stings. Why? Because this man has been the face of the company for how long?
Since 2007. He's been there literally 17 years. I want you to think about that. It doesn't seem like he's been there that long, but he's been. The first time that I saw Kaz Okada, he was in TNA, wearing a Kato mask, running around doing martial arts and stuff.
Exactly.
So for those that remember, that shows you how long ago.
we remember Kazuchika Okada in Zubaz pants. That's how
we
know Kenny. That's how back we know Kazuchika Okada.
Yes.
I'll tell you something.
Yes.
And the growth from going into New Japan to having all the matches with Tanahashi to having the matches with Omega. Oh,
yes.
Gosh. I mean,
some of the best matches you would ever see.
Peeps, The reason I know about Kazuchika Okada is because I was never familiar with Dave Meltzer's 5-star ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I ever heard mention of a WWE 5-star match was Taker and Shawn at Mania 25, when I believe that Angle and Shawn should have gotten, like, you know, a 5-star rating, which it didn't. And then when I heard Meltzer gave this a 5-star rating, I said to myself, wait, Omega? Okada? 5 stars?
Yes.
Wrestle Kingdom?
Yes.
Tokyo Dome? Hold on, you know what? Let me go on to Daily Motion real quick. Peeps, that had to be the best half hour of my life. And Taekwon, please don't go into the chat saying stupid things, because I know that's what you're planning on doing right now. Hand off the keyboard. But look, Okada Omega widened my eyes to the broader range of professional wrestling and brought my eyes and my attention towards New Japan.
Yes.
Okada was all that and more, because the resurgence of his character, of his ability to be a professional wrestler, and bringing eyes to the strong style wrestling that New Japan is known for in the modern era that we live in today, should tell you how big of a star Okada is.
Yes.
So now to hear that he's leaving New Japan is just... This is like the first big shocker of 2024.
Yes.
There's plenty more to come, but now, going from this as a shocker, although some of us may think that it was imminent, it probably could have happened, we now move to what could be the bigger shocker. Peeps, we've seen Kaz Okada in an AEW ring. So, seeing him in AEW, we know it can fit. We know it can work.
Yes.
We saw him back at TNA,
Yes.
which was even crazier. Going back home, saying that TNA was always home to him and he always appreciated TNA and the fans and everything that TNA did for him. That was big too. But we've all have heard some type of rumbling that Okada always somewhat wanted to be on that bigger stage in WWE. I'm along the lines of they are pulling not only WWE, but also AEW.
Oh, yes.
We talk about WrestleMania 23 being the battle of the billionaires. Fast forward to 2024, Tony Khan, Nick Khan. Two big cons in the business, but one is certainly going to be a con man if they can't pull this off. Peeps, if we are looking at it the way that we're looking at it, and we're seeing Kazuchika Okada in an American wrestling promotion, where is he most likely to fall?
Ooh. Okay. Where I believe he fits in the best as far as in-ring work would probably be AEW, as far as just the talent of guys that are there. But to get the worldwide acclaim and attention that he deserves, it's WWE. And not just from a perspective of Okada has been on the mainstream for a very long time outside of the United States. We've seen Okada in AEW during Forbidden Door. We've seen him on Rampage when he did his small tour, like when they were doing the build up to Forbidden Door and him showing up and having matches on television. So we know what he can do.
Yeah.
I think that if you're looking at some of the matches that he could have going forward, if the WWE is trying to flesh out an NXT Japan because we've been hearing about this for a couple of years that Triple H has wanted to kind of flesh out the NXT brand, what they were going to do with NXT UK and turn it into NXT Europe.
Yep.
Then you can kind of move that into the Asian market where you can get maybe you can start bringing in Chinese wrestlers that are there. We know Xia Li, who is of Chinese descent, in NXT, and bring in other wrestlers from other places and have them come to the WWE and learn and branch out and truly become a global, worldwide market. We know there are a lot of Australians that are wrestlers that are in the WWE. We also know that New Zealand has been a hotbed for wrestling. So why not go after the Japanese market, which we know the WWE has dabbled in? They had a WWE Intercontinental type of championship in New Japan a long time ago, going back to like the early 80s, where they would work in conjunction with New Japan and All Japan. So when you think of it from that standpoint, Kazuchika Okada being the Rainmaker, being the person that he is, the wrestler, the entity that he is, the brand that he is, why not have probably the most well-known Japanese wrestler of the modern day outside of, say, a Jushin Liger or of a Keiji Muto, and then you put him and team him with probably the best marketing arm in professional wrestling in the WWE. You marry them together, you give him the attention that he deserves on a worldwide scale, and then you open up the door and you get the hell out of the way. And everything else will market itself. Exactly. And the matches that he could have if we had a healthy Seth Rollins versus Okada, or we have a Kevin Owens versus Okada.
Let me go ahead and dabble Peeps Nature's marbles real quick.
Yes.
Peeps, imagine.
Oh boy.
He leaves at the end of January. And somehow, someway, the wrestling gods put him on a Monday Night Raw. Ooh. Towards February.
Ooh.
And instead of having Brock Lesnar be the challenger at WrestleMania, you have Gunther versus Okada for the Intercontinental title. See, Peeps is Peeps, you're good. Are you okay?
Yeah. Good. Get the defibrillators. There we go. All right. Yeah, I mean, that would work.
You know what I'm saying? British strong style versus Japanese strong style. Peeps, you can't go wrong.
Yes.
Imagine. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but this is also all depending upon Okada's longevity.
Oh, man. BMMSM award all day. Big meaty men slapping meat. That's all it would be. All day. Meat. That's all you would hear.
The Power Bombs versus the Rainmakers. Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Have mercy. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
This all depends on his longevity, though. Does this mean that he wants to continue to wrestle for how many plus years? Does he want to at least just have the financial acclamation for his family and then move on to a brighter scale of probably doing more things? What does it mean? What does it mean for Okada? We don't know. But Peeps, the possibilities are endless.
Oh, yes.
And it really
just imagine. Whew.
Oh gosh.
I got verklempt listening to that one right there with having Walter versus. Ooh, yeah.
Peeps is now thinking in his head, oh gosh. You know
my headspace is I've gone way past where my human wrestling brain should be. Wow.
Yeah. See, look at Peeps is
See, I don't hide my emotions. The one thing about me is that if I like something in wrestling and you say something, I will show you my face, what I say, what I do, how I am very well to emote how I'm feeling. If I saw that match, shut the rest of the world down. That is going to be there. I will have iced tea. I will have pizza rolls. I will have donuts. I will have chocolate, and I will sit down and I will watch that match until it is over with.
Yeah, and plus, if it's like a 30-minute time limit, I know Peeps will go ahead and forget about the rest of the premium live event. The man will just come back and watch the match again. For God's sake.
I'll be like Peter Griffin, done, and walk off.
Oh, man. He says Nate loves slapping me. Oh, gosh. See,
good
not to try you. Peeps.
Yes, yes.
This is according to
It's the first of the season. I should expect that.
Yeah. It happens. It happens.
Yes.
So, peeps. So now that you say that, what is the most realistic component? Is it really going to be AEW or is it really going to be WWE? Because yes, there is that side of if you want the wrestling, it's AEW. If you want the faces, if you want the eyes, it's WWE.
Yes.
What's more realistic that we're going to be looking at? What is the realistic form?
I think the familiarity would help the decision. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. And if we're looking at a place that Kaz Okada is going to make his home for, say, the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever would be the length that he's looking for. As I said before, he's been in AEW. We know that a lot of the Japanese signings that AEW has made has not fully come to fruition the way it should. So we know going forward that they can build around Kaz Okada in AEW because of the Ring of Honor arm. And that would help that out to some degree. We also know that there are still matches on the table that have not happened, like Adam Copeland versus Kaz Okada would tear the roof off any building if they got their hands on it. You can have
Cole.
Yes.
Okada MJF. Okada Omega 3 if we do get a third and Omega comes back stronger than ever.
Oh.
Peeps.
Or even it's there. Okada versus Samoa Joe. Think of all of because we know that Joe is going to probably be world champion for quite some time. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. If you get Okada in AEW and it's done right, now mind you, I said it has to be done right because of what we saw of how they built up Hook versus Samoa Joe leaves a lot to be desired. But that's a discussion for another time. If Kaz is in AEW, I think we know what he gives you and how that they can promote him, especially knowing that they're going to be going to London once again in August for All In. That builds itself. You'll have the huge Japanese fans that would trek all the way over to Wembley to see Kaz versus whoever.
Ospreay.
Don't play with my emotions. Remember, Ospreay is signed in AEW for I don't know how many years. He's a long-term signing. So put Kaz. Yes. Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes.
The way that he kind of propped up and he was like,
yes.
Are you being serious right now?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm telling you, those matches are there. Yeah. The question is, what makes the most sense for him? And what is he looking for sense-wise? Does he want the promotion behind him, the attention that he deserves, or does he want the in-ring matches that are the challenge that all competitors are looking for? If he's looking for matches, AEW works for him. If he's looking for the notoriety along with those matches, then the WWE should be where he's looking for. And if he goes to one, he shouldn't look back at either one. Whatever decision he makes, I think he'll be better taken care of in WWE.
We have the answer. The $1 million question has been answered by Peeps Nate.
Yes.
Peeps feels that he'll be better taken care of in WWE. Now, Peeps, I can't ask you this. One last question.
Okay.
Due to that, right? If this is the deciding factor,
okay,
do you think that Okada will also look at, the different Japanese wrestlers that the WWE has had and that, haven't really won the big one or gotten the full-on adulation that they should have, i.e. Shinsuke Nakamura? Because, of course, when we look at Shinsuke, we really thought to ourselves, look, he beat Sammy for the NXT title. This man has it. He's going to be a future world champion. Come WrestleMania 34, he loses to AJ Styles. Turns heel, and he's never been the same again. Fast forward to this past year, goes against Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. Not once, but twice.
Yes.
You think we're going to go ahead and get a win from him, and we didn't get one.
Yes.
You know,
And
so
you can look at that as a factor, because if you think about it, look at what they've done with the Kira Tozawa.
yup,
Like you just said with Nakamura. Look at what they did with Kushida when he was in NXT.
yup.
Look at what they did with Jacket Time, which weren't really together that long. The WWE has had a really up and down history with how they have not only portrayed, but how they have pushed Japanese talent on their roster. And that's something that I think the regime change with Triple H running creative would look to change. This is not the same WWE that had Vince running creative and thinking that all Japanese wrestlers had to not speak a lick of English and had to always be heels. This is not that same thought process. And as we've seen by how popular Shinsuke Nakamura is, if you remember his tag team with Rick Boogs, that got over until Rick Boogs got hurt. There's also a healthy respect for the Japanese wrestling audience and the Japanese culture that I think Triple H has when it comes to other wrestlers going forward. But that's something that I think Kaz will be looking at going forward. If that's the case, there seems to be a better utilization of Japanese wrestlers in AEW. Well, whether that is the determining factor in what makes his choice outside of a lot of this, yeah, I think that'll be a huge factor in that. But also the thought process could be, I'm Kaz Okada, I can change the perception in WWE of how Japanese wrestlers and the Japanese wrestling community looks at us in America and internationally going forward, and can bring more attention to bringing in more Japanese wrestlers over the next, say, year or two going forward. They can use him as a kind of like an olive branch to say, this works. Now let's go ahead and bring some other wrestlers in that can be utilized in the right way to help storylines along.
Now, here's what I'm saying. If it were to be WWE, then you have him go ahead and dethrone Gunther. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
It works.
Because honestly, and have him have a long reign. Have him go ahead and have the stellar matches. We know what Okada's capable of.
And he'll be the built-in workhorse champion that they would then bequeath as Walter moves along to the main event. Because now, if we're looking at the fact that the Intercontinental Championship is still a workhorse championship, and Seth Rollins is going to be out for a certain amount of time, this is where you can start putting certain levels in place and get the ball rolling on who's the next to step up and do the same thing while you promote Walter to the main event.
Exactly.
It builds itself.
So many options. Jeez, I mean, for God's sakes.
Yes.
This is what we get as wrestling fans, guys. This is the passion tree. This is the glory. This is the spectacle.
Yes.
That is professional wrestling.
Yes.
And it wouldn't be better than to be able to sit here on a Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
And bring to many other wrestling fans alike Saturday afternoon's main event.
Yes.
With that being said, guys, this marks the end of today's show. We appreciate you guys coming in, sitting down with us, listening to what we have to say. For an hour and a half, we gave you everything. Yo, peeps, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Shannon Sharp real quick.
Okay.
Peeps, I just want you to know that even through all this episode, through all the episodes that we've done, I gave you everything I had. Let me stop, guys. I digress. Last one of today.
There you go. You go. That's actually number 5.
Oh wow, great, amazing,
yeah.
Great.
We're already at 11 for the year. Go figure.
Great, amazing. This is what Sane gives us, guys. This is what Sane gives us, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So, guys, we appreciate you guys for chiming in. We appreciate you guys for coming in, listening. We hope to go ahead and see you guys next week. Of course, next week, Royal Rumble. So much is on the line. Titles are at stake. Lives will change, and main events will be placed. So, look, guys, we hope to see you guys next week for the show. With that being said, we will see you guys next week on this episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. I, the phenomenal one.
And I, the Peeps Nate, where we came.
We saw.
And in the words of the great wise man Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week for episode 2. It's a phenomenal one. It's the Peeps Nate. It's Saturday afternoon's main event signing off. Peace, love, farewell.